Hey guys, David here, back again with another video. My first in a really long time. I did try and record one in August, but I was playing some Coltrane in the background really loudly, way louder than I thought when I was recording the video. And as a result, I was met with a copyright strike. So I won't be making that mistake again. I'm back now. Going to show some records I got over the Christmas period. One hip-hop record and the rest are going to be jazz. Most of which came from one particular collection, which I will elaborate on later on in the video. We'll start with the hip-hop record. This is Moment of Truth by Gangstar. Original 98 press, gatefold, 3 LP. And this is probably in my top 2 favorite hip-hop records of all time. Reason being, I've been bumping it for over 10 years consistently, and it never gets old. Really long album, 20 tracks. Phenomenal stuff. The pairing of Guru's forward, conscious, positive lyrics and DJ Premier's beats, which just got better and better and better until he reached his pinnacle, I would say, on this record, is just astounding. The level of production that he's able to achieve on this. Thought I would elaborate my point a bit further by talking about a couple of his samples, which I've collected recently as well. Probably in November I got one of these and the other in August. Anyway, first one being The Supremes, New Ways But Love Stays, I think is the name of this record. And the track on here that Premier samples is It's Time to Break Down. On the track JFK to LAX, classic sample. This is a really nice die cut sleeve. Record's on Motown. I haven't actually played this record the whole way through. I'm pretty sure it's going to be really good. It's post Diana Ross, but It's Time to Break Down, I kind of just bought it on the strength of that track alone. It's got this really sick fuzz guitar at the end of it, and I'm looking forward to giving this a spin when I get around to it. Second one I have played, and honestly it's not my favorite record by any means. It's a jazz record. It's In the Bag by Nat Adderley, featuring Cannonball and a few musicians from New Orleans that were pretty unknown at the time. It's on Riverside, originally on Jazzland, but this is a UK pressing. And the track that Premier samples from here is RSVP. The piano line on it is used in the song What I'm Here For by Gangstar, and that's probably my favourite track on the whole album. It means an awful lot to me. The lyrics and the beat is just, it blows me away every time. Must have played that song hundreds of times. It never gets old. And yeah, the sample was from this album, so had to have it. Next up, a couple of records which are unrelated to the main collection that I got. Stan Getz and JJ Johnson, live at the Opera House. This is a UK pressing on Columbia. It was originally on Verve, and you'll notice this label is kind of a little bit reminiscent of the Verve design from the trumpeter. The Norman Granz era of Verve, 1957. Really classic stuff, can be found for cheap, highly recommended. It's got Herb Ellis on guitar, Ray Brown on bass, Oscar Peterson on piano, Connie Kay on drums. Fantastic stuff. Had for cheap, and it's in really good shape, so you can never go wrong with something like that. And the next one up is Mingus Revisited by Charles Mingus. It's another UK pressing, 1965 on Mercury. And this was released in the US 5 years earlier under a different name on a different label with a different cover. It's how it came out in the UK. It's Mingus playing some old compositions, I think, in a big band setting, featuring Marcus Belgrave, Herb Dotson, Clark Terry, Ted Curzon, Richard Williams, Slide Hampton, Charles Greenlee, Eddie Burt, Ginny Nepper, Don Butterfield, and so on. I mean, it's Roland Hanna, Eric Dolphy. So many musicians on this one. 100% worth the pick up. It's, a really nice one to have. I picked it up in Reckless Records. If you live in London, chances are you've been there. And I was killing some time waiting for a friend before we went to the theatre. This was on the wall, along with a bunch of Blue Notes, which the dude in front of me ended up buying, but I wasn't trying to spend that kind of money at that point. But I picked up this, really clean, so 100% worth it. And now we move on to the records I picked up in one bulk, along with the Gangstar, actually. I got a deal on all of these, so they didn't end up doing me too badly. First up, oh my god, this glare is really not happening, is it? Take it up sleeve. Freddie Hubbard's The Body and the Soul. This is his Impulse debut and his kind of first stint as an arranger. Now, this condition, and it's going to be the case with some others, leaves a little bit to be desired. The spine's kind of gone, which is a shame for an Impulse in particular. But it's probably a starter copy. As the gatefold. Featuring Tommy Flanagan, Lewis Hayes, Art Davis, and John Gilmore. Fantastic record. Art Davis's bass solo on the end of Bob's Place is one of the highlights of this record for me. It's a really, really great one. One that I need to spend a little bit more time with, but nonetheless, a fantastic record. Next up, also on Impulse. Always happy to add to the Coltrane collection, as you guys know. Live at the Village Vanguard. I hope you'll be able to see this without me taking it out. You guys know what the cover looks like, I feel like. Yeah, on the Impulse label. I think this is a 1964 press, perhaps a third pressing, although I haven't properly done my research on it yet. It's got the original quartet, the classic quartet, although I think Reginald Workman subs in for Jimmy Garrison on one side of this album, and Eric Dolphy features on the bass clarinet, which is always a plus. So really stoked with that. Next up, we have some records on Esquire. If you guys don't know, Esquire was the label which put out prestige releases in the UK. Most times, they came with completely different artwork, sometimes under a different name, which can be pretty confusing. And you can kind of almost collect them separately because the art direction and everything is so different. And they're really unique pieces in their own right, I would say. So first up, I've got some vocal jazz action. This is Lee in Love by Barbara Lee. Absolutely beautiful album. I hadn't listened to it, but I put it on in the shop and I knew I was getting it straight away. It's just absolutely beautiful stuff. She credits Dick Carey, who's on the alto horn and on the piano on one track, I think, as kind of like the, arranger and the driving force behind this record. But her vocals are really lovely. Covers a few love songs, some that I knew, some that I didn't, some standards. I think they're mainly standards, but it's really, really good stuff. And that cover is mesmerizing, way better than the actual one that came out on Prestige, in my opinion. There's just something so striking about this particular artwork, so I was really glad to pick that up. Definitely not one you see every day. The next one up on Esquire is Lee Konitz, Collates. Now, this album has a completely different cover and title. It's a 1956 pressing. This is the album that came out on Prestige as number 7004, I think, really early on, and it, as are most Prestige albums that came out early, it's a reissue of stuff that would have no doubt been on 10-inch recordings from the late 40s, with obviously Lee Konitz, Lenny Tristano, Billy Bauer on guitar, Shelley Main on drums, and also Denzel Best and Jeff Morton on drums, Sal Mosca on piano. Really, really interesting album. I think this is classed as cool jazz, and it's kind of unique to my collection. Don't really have too much of this period, although I am going to show a couple of other records in a minute. And in the interest of this video, talking about Esquire, I thought I will quickly show the other Esquire album that I have. This is what the label looks like. It's upside down. That's what the label looks like. And the other one I have is Saxophone Colossus. I think the artwork for this is really, really cool. Just the simplicity of it and the colours I find really, really striking. It's definitely not as iconic as the Prestige album cover photo, and it's definitely not a photo or an image that you would associate with this record. I just think it's so nice in its own right, and I'm really, really honoured to have this one. It's not in the best shape, as you can probably tell, and there is in fact quite a major click which occurs for most of the song. You Don't Know What Love Is, which is a shame because it's a ballad. But this is probably the most valuable album that can be found on Esquire. It's kind of to Esquire as the Prestige pressing is to Prestige, if that would make any sense. And finally, we finish up with 3 Blue Note records. The condition on these, once again, well, on the covers mostly, is not the best, but I was so grateful to pick them up anyway. First up, Horace Silver and the Jazz Messengers, Blue Note 1518. This is not an original, it's a 1959 press on the West 63rd label. I'm not going to take it out for convenience sake. But yeah, you will be able to see there is quite a bit of tape on it. I think you'll be able to see that. So I was kind of hesitant to pick it up, honestly, but I couldn't leave it behind. And I was really glad I did in the end because it turned out to be a really solid player, even though there's a scratch on it, which does tend to be the case with Blue Note. So I trusted my instincts and kind of came through on that occasion. And last up, this is interesting because for those of you that collect Blue Note, you'll know that in the 1500 series, there were several 2-parter releases. And I've got a couple of volume 1s, but I've never seen 2 together as a set before until now. And I was really, really lucky to be able to get a deal on both of these. They aren't the most sought after records of the 1500 series, don't get me wrong, but they're still really beautiful in their own right. We're talking about Fats Navarro, The Fabulous Fats, Volume 1, and Volume 2. These are on the Lexington Avenue label, framed cover, flat edge, everything you'd want. So it's a really, really a beautiful thing to have. Although, as you can see, once again, there's a heavy amount of tape on the cover. But overall, for a record from 56, 57, no complaints. It's really beautiful. They're good players, and they are on the Lexington Avenue label, as I said. Hopefully you'll be able to, that's upside down. I think you'll be able to get that. And they're in the complete wrong inner sleeves. There's an EMI one and an Atlantic one. I'm in some desperate need of some new inner and outer sleeves. But there we have it. Those are my pickups over this recent period. I have been very blessed. So, yeah. There they are. Just putting them back, and then I will do my outro. So, yeah, really, really blessed to have these pickups, as I said. And I finally managed to get a video out, which I am relieved about. Hopefully, I can be more consistent. My plan is to do, a top finds of stuff I haven't shown yet this year. That should be coming up shortly, but we'll see. You never know with these things. So, yeah, on that note, I'll sign off. Peace.